made a second one. Like,
Yeah. I just wanted a little bit more time. Like, if this was made now, it's like, could you guys do web series on each of the boys?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Can we do a Havana Nights like version, like the Haumana Saved by the Bell college years version, where like they reunite
but
5
now I'm
years
like,
later to do another competition. Like,
to
come
do
on.
another competition. Oh my.
Hey everybody, we're the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Erin.
I am Dr. Kristen.
And you are exceptionally welcome to our tiny little corner of the internet for the final Colonizer's World Tour video for 2022. I can't believe we're here. We've had such a wonderful time, and we're ending on such a high note. If you saw our 101 video yesterday on Kanaka Maoli, or Native Hawaiians, you will know that we are super excited to talk to you about our piece of art today, which is the 2013 film The Haumana, which is available for rent in the United States on Prime Video. And it is a film by Keo Wolford, who is Native Hawaiian and trained in traditional hula. He also co-produced an award-winning documentary, Na Kamale, Men of Hula, which I will be looking up because now I love hula and I want to learn more about it. But as my genius colleague, Dr. Kristen, said, this movie is like the Mighty Ducks for hula.
Mm-hmm.
The Haumana, or the word Haumana, means pupil or students. And it is the story of Johnny Kealoha, which of course his name is Johnny. It was just super like Mighty Ducks, but also like Karate Kid vibes. I was like,
Yeah.
oh. So Johnny Kealoha, who shills to tourists in one of the culturally appropriative Polynesian-styled shows in Honolulu. The guts of this story is that Johnny learns that his Auntie Margaret, who was his kumu, his teacher, growing up, teacher of hula and other things, is dying. And he goes to visit her, and she asks him to take over training the young men from the local high school for the Royal Hula Festival competition. That is a big, 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 big deal. Johnny has been disconnected, shall we say, from his roots for quite some time.
He's been in a maze of appropriation and alcohol.
Yes. He is, yeah. Drowning his disconnection in booze.
In what looked like really cheap whiskey.
Not great whiskey.
No.
And he has a strange relationship with Napua, who I think was like one of his girlfriends, and then maybe he started drinking. I don't know. We didn't get their backstory, but they're very tense. And Napua is taking over running the school and the programs, and she teaches hula as well.
And let me also say, just for anyone who's not been encountered with any sort of Pacific or Asian culture, auntie is not a biological distinction.
Right.
Auntie is an emotional, cultural distinction. So just be aware that there's no evidence that he was related to Margaret at all. Everybody in the movie calls her Auntie Margaret.
Yeah, and there's only one person that we're told is an actual relation.
Yes.
Kealoha is an actual grandson of Auntie Margaret,
Yep.
but they all call her. Yeah, it's very common in Indigenous cultures, full stop, that just people are aunties and cousins, and that doesn't mean that they're blood aunties. And so it is the story of Kealoha, as we will now call him, since he decided to shed the Johnny of it all. Kealoha's journey to understand himself and to learn hulu and to teach it to these boys, and for these young boys to learn about themselves and who they want to be, and to learn about their culture, and for them to teach Kealoha. And all sorts of shenanigans ensue. There's dancing montages. There's offerings for Auntie Margaret. There's fights in the forest over secret weed stashes, and all sorts of things happen. But in the end, much like the Mighty Ducks, the young men are victorious in that they compete in the Royal Hula Festival, and they do amazing. And I cried a little bit, and it was such a beautiful expression of culture and connection and bonding, and the importance of all of those things and the relationships that we form, and seen. So it was a damn delight. Kristen, I don't know what, if anything, you wanted to add to my ramblings about what we learned. But yeah, we both loved this movie and just had big grins.
This is the summary of my notes. Because I was too busy watching the movie.
Too busy watching,
this almost never happens. I was just caught up with the charm of it.
Yeah.
I think it was both. It's one of those great movies that's a good, like, the best stories are the tiniest stories. Because, like, I don't know anything about hula. I'm sure I've been to a luau that I'm sure was appropriative. All that. I don't understand it. But I know every single rhythm this movie was going to go through, because I know coming of age stories, I know competition movies, I know it all. And so I could just lose myself in the fact that the storyteller obviously knew how to tell a story. And obviously cast hula dancers, because he did not cast actors. God love those boys.
God love them. They did get better. But they were like, and I loved that they cast hula dancers.
I was so much rather have really strong hula than have really strong actors. But like, he had to choose. I'm glad he chose I'm glad he chose what he chose. But
there's some rough scenes, y'all.
Real rough scenes. The girlfriend scene, that was rough. That was
oh my god where he was just like, watch me
like,
trying to get her to have
and she
sex
was like,
again, and
no,
she was like,
anyway.
Oh Lord, no. God love him.
No.
He had some growing. They all had some growing to do.
I know. I would have, in some way, there was almost like too many boys that we focused on, because I wanted more from each of them. Like, we didn't have a Charlie Conway. Like, we didn't have the primary guy.
Right.
And I would have appreciated a primary guy to, like, get to know a little bit more, and kind of work that out and build that relationship. But the relationship, like, in so many of these other sports movies, it's between, like, a dude. And it's been between, like, two dudes. So, like, a coach and a player, or two coaches in Remember the Titans.
Right.
And this really was him and his ancestry.
Yeah.
Like, the tension relationship was him, and does he want to shill not their culture? This is also the movie in which I learned that fire dancing is Tahitian and not Hawaiian. Today years old. And shill, like, the amalgamation that white folks think they want, versus engage in traditional Hawaiian culture preservation.
Yeah.
And also the fact of, like, I mean, at one point his appropriation show shuts down. He's like, this is all I know.
Yeah.
And I've read that over and over again from a lot of the people who, there's obviously a massive, massive debate over whether there should even be tourism in Hawaii anymore. Among Native Hawaiians, not among white people. And there are Native Hawaiians I've personally spoken to who are like, no, please come and see the beauty of our culture. Please come and, like, just don't go to the crappy shows. Don't go to the bad shows. Come to, like, authentic hula shows, and then take that back with you and tell people what hula really is. And, like, do that. And then I, talked to other people that were like, you don't need to ever come here. And if you do, you should have to have a stamp in your visa, and a separate visa, because we're a kingdom. And just because you're an American, get the hell out of my state. Like, and I've read a lot of in between where it's like, hey, we can't lose the tourism industry, but it's got to reform. So, hey, could you wait till after COVID's over? Like, lots of mess there. And in this very tiny way, I think it showed the Kanaka Maoli side of that story, where it's like, I've gotten myself into this. I don't have another skill set. I have to do this. but at the same time, I need to preserve my culture. And so how do I do that too?
Yeah.
And so that was, yeah, I mean, a big takeaway for me for this week is that I've wanted to go to Hawaii for as long as I can remember, entirely to eat the food. I need you to understand that. I want to eat the food. I don't care about beaches. I don't particularly like surfing. Beaches are fine. They're lovely, but that's not like my particular like huge jam where I need to see it. I don't like hiking, so I'm not going to like desecrate sacred land. I want to eat the food. And my husband feels the same way. And we've now in this last couple of days talked a lot about what would ethical tourism look like and when would we maybe want to do it and how much longer we are going to wait until COVID is over. We're definitely not going to go while the restrictions are still in place and violate their requests that way. But when I emailed him this movie and told him he's not around right now and emailed him and told him to watch it because I think he'd really love it because we also love observing traditional forms of dance and understanding what this looks like. And it was beautiful to me in just watching people. I loved the conversation between the super evangelical and like saying like this is how we honor God and whoever God is to you and what that means. I love that Solomon opened up his prayer at the end because he could open up his mind a little bit. Like it was all just stuff that felt really lived in. Yeah. And really very, very deep in this tiny story.
Yeah, and we say this all the time, right? Like the best stories are specific and universal. The best told stories. And there was so much specificity in this that they didn't translate they didn't translate any of the chanting, so we didn't know what they were saying. And that was fine. Because
although I will tell you my favorite closed caption was melancholy ukulele.
I know. That was amazing.
That was melancholy ukulele. Like, I didn't know there was any other kind of ukulele. So like that, I thought we just had...
It's like happy ukulele. Yeah. And it was... I agree. I wish they would have had more time with each of the boys as well as Kealoha. But I loved that they picked different facets of kind of exploring, contemporary Hawaiian masculinity and and culture and belonging and all of these themes that are the universal ones, right? So we get Kealoha's story of like reconnecting. Solomon, who's comes from a very conservative Christian family, who is going hiding what he's doing from his family and really struggling to reconcile his Christian beliefs with the cultural practices of hula. And then you get Timothy, Timo, whose ethnic origin is unclear, but he has two white parents. And he clearly loves hula and loves the culture and wants to embrace it, but is afraid to talk to his parents about it. Hilarious scene with his mom where she thinks he's
gay and watching porn.
Gay and watching porn, and he's like, I'm a hula dancer. I dance hula. And she's like, what? And then his dad just chimes in and goes, good for you, buddy. It was hilarious. And then we get Yosh trying to figure out who he is and not be a pot smoking
bra.
And then you get Le'e, who is the most earnest, serious. We all knew a Le'e growing up, y'all.
I dated several of them. Yeah.
Oh, it's just so earnest and beautiful and 100% queer, and has one of the best lines in the movie when he's telling his name to Kealoha, and he says, I'm Le'e, and Kealoha's I've been living with the whites too long and struggles with it, and he goes, it's spelled Lee by our colonizers, and I was like, Le'e. Yes buddy. So yeah, we got sprinkles with all of the boys a little bit, enough that I wish they would have made a second one.
Yeah. I just wanted a little bit more time. If this was made now, it's could you guys do web series on each of the boys?
Can we do a Havana Nights version, the Haumana Saved by the Bell college years version, where They reunite
but
5
now I'm
years
like,
later to do another competition. Like, come
to do
on.
another competition. Oh my god, that would be amazing.
So good.
Yeah, but I also want to know if the Royal Hula Fest is televised. Can I do pay-per-view? Like, I need to. Yeah.
Can we please watch this? Yeah, and it was. I think what I thought hula was, was completely different than what it is, which is not surprising because of cultural appropriation and all of these things. But it reminds me of that. Remember the movie we covered for Fiji that was the Pacific pageant?
Yes, the South Pacific, Miss South Pacific.
Miss South Pacific, yeah. And like kind of like it was such a great exposure to just the cultural dance that is hula, and like the rock dance that the girls did was baller. And I was like,
I loved that one.
I just want to learn more about this. So, I mean, is it going to win awards for script and acting and cinematography? Absolutely not. But I could see myself watching it again as like a comfort watch.
Yeah, I went back and bought it after I rented it. Because I was like, I want to own this.
Yeah, because I would just be 100%. You and I will be sitting in a hotel 6 months from now and be like, do you want to put on the Haumana? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And hang out with Kealoha and his boys as they conquer the Royal Hula Festival. But I think I'm so glad we ended on this.
Same.
For this go-round of the Colonizers World Tour. We'll be taking a break, folks, as we want to do with Colonizers World Tour. We'll be back again next March. As Kristen said in our 101, we'll be going some different places. Next year, we're doing Belgian colonies, we're doing Russian colonies, we're doing British colonies in Africa. And while we will be, no doubt, horrified by the things we learn, we always learn things that we love and are fascinating and bring us joy and hope about humanity. So I'm glad we ended on such a hopeful note.
Yep.
For this month. If you liked what we are doing, please consider subscribing and liking our page click that bell so that you can get notifications. If you want to find out what else we're doing, we have a Patreon that's going strong right now. We're covering The Handmaid's Tale. We'll be covering The Crown. The links are in the downstairs for all of those things if you want to stay connected with us. And we hope we do see you between now and the next Colonizers World Tour. Yeah. And we will see you when we see you next.
Be well until then, friends.
Bye.